Stone Soup is here. It is July. We are still here. America is still here. The world is still here. And you just have to stop and sit back and say, why? But the answer, if you're a Stone Souper, is obvious because Jack Giaour has not featured yet at Stone Soup, and I've been waiting for this to happen. Jack is here tonight. Get a round of applause as we transition to the open mic and have our little one round robin as we go around, and there'll even be a preview. There's actually a way to look back at last week's feature because MP Carver's with us again, and a preview of next week's feature. But before we do any of that, I will say that hopefully in the next couple of days we will be announcing August features, though likely the first Wednesday of August will be an all open mic. That'll be August 6th, and then we'll be announcing the rest of the features for the hot summer weeks. And hopefully we'll have some really good announcements. And hopefully we'll have someone really good leading up to the Boston Poetry Festival, which is taking place on the 16th and the 17th of August. That is an in-person. We're working on the hybrid factor as we go along. So hopefully we will be able to at least live stream a little bit of this, if not all of it. And more announcements will come there as well. And plus, I might be starting up the Stones Throw, the get the issue, the democracy, the second democracy benefit issue. The first one we did when Trump won the first time, and hopefully we got some good art going for that. I already know we have some good poems that have already been lined up. Enough of that. Let us go to the first person on the open mic. Let's welcome up Mr. Richard Spizak. As selected by the Raminator 5000. You could be first and not even know it.
Thank you so very much. I have a little piece here called In Honor of All of the Lost People in Gaza. This is called Meet Me at the Plaza in Gaza. Meet me at the poolside bar. No, it's not too far. At the plaza in Gaza, it's all very nice. We stayed there twice. There's a charming little casino. It reminds me a lot of Rio, where when you ask for a shot, believe it or not, the drink is served from a pitcher forged from a converted cartridge belt. It's very chic and very spelt. The modest models there, the fashion can't compare. Their clothing's made of a motif displayed. It's a Kevlar bikini with a flak jacket stole. It's just, well, you know how they roll. But you got to watch out on the beach because the lifeguards compete with sharpshooters replete. So make sure you bring your towel from the tower because after an hour on the sand, they might mistake your dark tan for some kind of commando. They might not understand, though, you're one of the guests, and well, you can guess the rest. And until you've confessed in the state of undress, your testimony under duress, even in a stress position, which we know isn't torture, can damage the furniture. And may you stay at your hotel in Gaza. It's never complete until from your seat in the theater where you get to hear the children's chorus, where they implore us for food. I'm told it's not rude to leave them starve right out there in the side yard. But at the poolside cabana, not even a banana. You got to understand what they've done with the place. Rubble's gone, now replaced with a five-star cafe with starving starlets galore there. So much fashion and more the fascist fashion galore. Hardly any, well, not too much gore. The casino is complete, and while there's still an occasional bombing, let me point out instead of the lovely Givenchy awning there above your head, time on the shooting range is still mandatory at this stage. For every looter that you get to shoot, you can claim a stack of chips, so go ahead. Let her rip. Don't forget Gaza.
Thank you, Richard. And now let's lighten up the mood slightly with Mr. Bill Lewis coming from Idaho. Or is
You
it
can.
Iowa?
I'm light mooded. Oh, Chadford, I'm so happy. You always make me feel good. Well, may I have permission to share screen, please? Do, 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 do. Just a second. All right. Just to show off, that is my baby sister on stage, joining the American Karate Hall of Fame. She is now one of the, yeah, I'm afraid of my own sister. And now, if this thing works the way I think it will, just a moment, I have to redo this. You go that way, and then I come over to here. I'm talking to my computer. I'm sorry for that, but if I don't talk to it, it won't behave well. And with a little bit of luck, I should be able to share here. And yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, my story begins with three friends from college, all of whom became single mothers. Divorce, affair, turkey baster. We weren't romantically involved, but I would visit them all with some regularity. I liked the kids, and we would go out and do fun things together. The eldest kid, Caleb, was a few years older than the twins, and he would torture them at times. We'd be watching TV, and he'd start poking them and pecking them and bothering them. I would sit on him. I wouldn't yell at him or get mad. I'd just sit on him. He could not pinch or poke me, so he'd twist and squirm and struggle, and pretty soon we'd get so absurd that we'd just break out laughing, and he'd forget about the twins for a little while. We went to see Aladdin with Roger Williams as the genie. And when he turned into a steak, Rebecca freaked out, screaming, burying her head into my chest, holding on for dear life. And the next day, she gave me a new moniker, Daddy Bill. We all laughed. We thought it was adorable. And it stuck. The twins, Matthew and Rebecca, had a daddy. They were ecstatic to introduce me to their teacher as their very own Daddy Bill. That year, as Christmas was approaching, I was thinking about fun things to do. I had just seen this movie, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, about some drag queens who buy a bus and have a magical road trip. So I called up the mothers. They all said yes. So the next summer, I flew out to Green Bay, Wisconsin, rented a 27-foot RV, and we started piling in. Drove down to Chicago, picked up Sidoni and Pat, and took off for adventures. The official destination was my brother's farm in Utah. Along the way, we camped out and had parties and had good times. We goofed off on the road and did all the things that you're supposed to do. In Denver, the twins met their cousins, and Rebecca decided that Amy was her best friend, her new best friend forever. We drove along the Oregon Trail and had a barbecue and learned that you never, ever step on a wagon wheel. If the horse just sneezes, it could break your leg. At Sandy's, we rode the horses and played in the streams and had a wonderful, glorious time. And we put on my play. I would always write plays for the kids, and we would put them on. And there was one absolute requirement, and that was that Rebecca had to be a princess who is in charge in particular. I have never known a 5-year-old who is so determined and so incredibly fearless. Walking along the top of that banister, no problem, doesn't bother her at all. Matthew is the opposite. He isn't so comfortable with grown-ups and he likes, well, bugs better. Bugs are much more fun. We visited Temple Square. And as we were taking our tour, all these people would come up to us and quietly say how pleased they were to see a proper Mormon family who wasn't afraid to be out in public together. With each year, we would go out to a different place. We went to Niagara Falls and had a glorious time. Caleb came to visit me in Sweden, and the next year, Sidoni did the same thing in the Niagara Falls. We walked down about half a mile down the main trail, and then I said to Sidoni, we should turn around and walk back up. But she was really psyched because there was a little stone building down there that she wanted to see. She practically skipped the last half mile down. It was a really cool stone structure, but the moment we turned around to go back up, oh, that was painful. Oh, she visited me in Sweden next year, got to name a sheep, and got to do Swedish things. In Wyoming, I stopped on the road at 2 a.m. It was pure black. I ushered everybody out of the car. They all said, what are we doing? And then I turned off the headlights. And everybody just looked up and said, oh. We continued to do it year after year after year. We went to the Cave of the Winds. We went to Mesa Verde. We went to the Swedish in Wisconsin, and we did everything together. It was so wonderful. When the twins came out to visit me in California, we built a monster out of paper mache because, well, monsters, of course. Oh, I had hair once upon a time. We met up with Judy once swimming and went to the Big D, where I used to work. Woo-hoo-hoo. Caleb visited me the next year. We explored everything. We had a great time. I showed him where I taught at Stanford University. I taught at Stanford, little me. And my housemate was a CFI, so I arranged for Caleb to get his first flying lesson. How cool is that? The next year, the twins came out, spent a week with me in France, where I was at L'École des Mines de Nantes for a sabbatical. And that is my story.
Thank you, Bill. And someone's joining us by phone, but we'll get to that later. Let's get, in case you missed it last week, let's get a poem from MP Carver, last week's feature, and thank her once again for an amazing night.
Hey, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Thanks. All right, great. I'm glad to join you again. So looking forward to Jack's feature. This is my attempt at a math poem, and it's called Is This It? Is this it? Yes, and therefore it equals this. This plus this equals it plus it. This times this equals it times it. This over it equals it over this. Moreover, this to the it equals it to the this. The square root of this equals the square root of it. Log this of it equals log it of this. The integral from it to this f of this equals the integral from this to it f of it. And furthermore, this minus it equals 0. 0 equals nothing. 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 This is it. Thanks.
Thank you, MP. I'd like to bring it now to Rita Rusty Rose.
Yes, hi. That MP, that sums up my college and even grade school math education. Anyway, when I'm not doing serious poetry, I work on to break the monotony, a little recipe, poetry, and art series. And I think I read this here before, but uh, this is for the artist Keith Herring. So this is recipe Keith Herring. Fill large melting pot with red, blue, yellow, electric green inks, water, pinch of salt, stir with wooden spoon. Tig and shout, and everybody could do it. Herring, herring, crack is whack. In boiling mix, add swirls of spaghetti, crawling babies, square-nosed dogs, a dancing man. Stir with wooden spoon. Tig and shout, herring, herring, crack is whack. Turn down heat. Add a pinch of oil, acrylics, rainbow markers, one large heart. Stir with wooden spoon. Tig and shout, herring, herring, crack is whack. Strain spaghetti into apex of a flying pyramid. Careful, it's hot. Cover, carry pasta into Subway, ride from the Lower East Side to 42nd Street. Find unrented ad panel, uncover pot, tag and shout, herring, herring, crack is whack. Balance on toes in front of the ad blackboard, uncover the steamy pyramid obelisk, spray chalk like spaghetti onto the wall. If swirl sticks, it's al dente, tag and shout, herring, herring, crack is whack. Rip open sachets of red tomato sauce, packets of pale yellow parmesan, serve to strap hangers with freshly baked pretzel breadsticks, tag and shout, herring, herring, crack is whack. Then hightail it in a flying saucer before the heat gets turned up on your graffiti spaghetti. Thank you.
I like the whimsical mood of the room tonight. Let's keep that going with our person who helps fill in the visual poet from Delaware requirement that all Zoom calls seem to have. Let's welcome up Mr. Robert Fleming.
Thank you, Chad. Good evening. I'm Robert Fleming, a visual poet and digital artist from Lewis, Delaware, and I'm going to share on the current art show I'm in, which had an opening last week. It is at the Rehoboth Art League, which is in Delaware, about 2 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. And this is what the interior of the gallery looks like. And another image of the front gallery. There's two rooms, and my work was in the back room. This was the original photograph I took of snow geese taking off from Fowler Beach, Delaware, which is about 15 miles north from where I live in Lewis. And then this is the digital art that I created from that. And this is the work that was in the show. There were, I'd say, approximately on the left side is the original, on the right side is the digital art. I would say approximately 100 works of art in the show, and about 250 people came through in about 2 hours. There were only 3 sales during the opening of the show. And the show will run through August this year. And a few new visual poems that I'm currently working on. I'm preparing a submission to a New York magazine called Blaze Vox. They do have a submission in visual poetry. This is called Chimes. chime, batter, post, paint, peel. And I've taken this work as well as several others to the Monday Poetry Academy critique group, which has always been very helpful for me. Um, this is another one. This was the original, then I'll tell you what the change is from the critique. When the gold goes, the town goes. This is called After the Gold Rush in Dawson City, Yukon, 1900. After the feedback from the critique group, I've changed the text to be the gold goes, the town goes. Just a little different. And this is another one which I haven't taken to the critique group yet. Plato is the platypus platitude. And then this is a pride one. Rainbow paint, Crayola my face, bitch. Thank you for letting me share my artwork and a visual poem that I'm working on. Two other things I've been working on for my press, Old Scratch Press. We are featuring on Blot from the Blue, which is the first Sunday of the month. It is an open mic, and I've been doing most of the work to get the feature. And the second thing I've been working on is for the digital magazine Instant Noodles, I've been working on producing it and putting it on the internet. And our intention is for a launch on August 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Oh, give me one. Thought the phone person was having some issues, but hopefully we'll keep on going, and we're gonna go next to Miss Jan Rowe of the Black Seed Riders and Stone Soup.
Hi, I'm in Dorchester. This is with these the way things are, I've been using music to help me deal with things, and thank goodness now that there's YouTube and Spotify because listen, my iTunes goes back when the Beatles could not use their music because it was owned by somebody else. So, but with everything. So because some of you were not are too young for this, but there was Eric Burton and the Animals, and they did Spill the Wine. And one of the fourth graders said how she was going to spill the blood, smear the blood next time. And then there was, we all remember 76 trombones. Well, this is about the Uvaldes waiting 77 minutes because AR-15s could pierce their body armor. Okay, so then my next one is Neil Young, Tell Me Why. Why does our government want our service people to sign non-disclosures about their housing problems? And then Little Feat, Lowell George, Mercenary Territory. There is this Spears USA mercenary. He was hired by Saudi Arabia to kill the human rights activist's son. Okay, and then I do the Rolling Stones Missing You. Let's tax the rich like we used to. And the last one about these horrible times, James Brown, There Was a Time, Augusta, GA. Thank you. We all get together.
Thank you so much. Jan. And to the person who seems to be having trouble hearing on I think you're okay. I think you can hear on the phone, but just so you know, you're muted and you'll be unmuted when it's time for you to read. Up next on the open mic, we're going to go to Tony Artuso, another North Shore invader.
So I'm really looking forward to Jack's feature. And knowing that Jack would be on this call, I decided I would read this next poem. Jack and I were in a workshop, and he said to me when he was critiquing this, you know, Tony, if you cut out a little of this and a little of that, you'll have a 14-line poem and you'll have a sonnet. So I said, challenge accepted. Here's the sonnet. It's an ekphrastic poem. It's based on a painting called Awake and Wait 2011. The painter who did this was a gentleman named Wilbur Blair. His dates are 1952 to 2024. And the poem is entitled After Awake and Await. 4 a.m. and the neighborhood beneath random stars basks in their variegated magnificence. Christmas lights sparking transom to transom, but the moon, as usual, is full of indifference. As he sits erect, sheets uncreased, prayers unsaid, eyes open, but unfocused, unenlightened. Somber, naked, alone, bars of his bedstead, no cage, but a fence too flimsy to frighten unwelcome guests who crowd his room's portal, threatening to invade his dreams, foil his fleeting rest. He braces to wrestle each immortal, the bare red bulb above their heads competing with exit sign, marking the way to the cellar door, crimson scrawl, which these intruders ignore. So thank you, Jack.
I love a good workshop. Very nice. And let's see who we have next. I want to bring up Mr. John Wezek. I think he's continuing the latest Pill Bottom saga.
Oh, yes. Well, tonight is the exciting conclusion of Pill Bottle Legacy. And a brief summary, Morris has just found out that he had a daughter and she got kidnapped, so he had to deliver a summons to El Guaco, who's kind of a criminal who lives in a private prison, much like Pablo Escobar. And the only way in is to do improv comedy. And so he got some people on as a couple improvers to go with him. And then the audience was Stare Decisis, the kidnapped girl's mother. She worked for the State Department as a cultural attaché. So anyway, we'll pick it up from there. And El Guaco just found out about the summons, and he's not happy. Gentlemen, don't leave. The entertainment is just beginning. El Guaco approached the stage. Surely you've played No P. You'll play a scene and the first person to use the forbidden letter gets eliminated, and I do mean eliminated. El Guaco drew the Glock 17 from his shoulder holster. Tonight we'll use W. To make it more interesting, the last one remaining gets to live. He turned to the crowd. Can I have a suggestion for a location? The Hindenburg. Giza gulped patchouli oil from his hip flask to settle his nerves. Waldo simply stared. It was hard to tell if or what he was thinking after that piano had landed on his head. The fat man and I stepped forward. Great flight, huh? I said. Do I have time for lunch before it lands? I don't have the information about the time you and I arrive. I pretended to look at a tiny clock attached to my arm. Maybe an hour after 1. Smartly said, sir. I admire a man that tries to trick me into staying the number before 3. The fat man dabbed his forehead with his sleeve. Hot in here. You think it's hot now? Hang on until the hydrogen catches fire. My mouth dropped open as I realized I'd failed. El Guaco lifted his pistol. Hold on! Starry stepped forward. I have a more amusing penalty. Make the losers eat rectum inferno hot sauce. Bring the table, El Guaco commanded. Sicario set up a table and two chairs. One added a basket of tortilla chips, while another set out a handful of hot sauces. El Guaco sat across from me, placed his pistol on the table, and pointed to the hot sauces. How are you with spicy food? Rye whiskey deadened all the nerves in my tongue. We'll start with a mild habanero at a 500,000 Scoville units. El Guaco pointed his pistol at the mildest sauce. Please. I dribbled an orange sauce onto a tortilla chip and coughed from the fumes. Habaneros lit up on my mouth like a road flare on a deserted highway, but the heat faded, leaving an aftertaste of broken glass and burnt rubber. Not bad. How'd you earn a living from improv? El Guaco asked. I didn't spend 11 years at Second City to selling my art for the sticky fingers of commerce. It's a side gig. Next is Ghost Pepper at 1,000,000 Scoville units. My tongue caught fire like an abandoned skating rink with a $10 million insurance policy. What is your day job? I dispense justice when the cops can't. We'll skip the Scorpion Pepper and Carolina Reaper and go straight to Pepper X at 2.5 million Scoville units. El Guaco gestured toward the bottle. More flames, more tears. A vigilante wouldn't stoop to process serving, so you must be a private detective. What motivated you? My father is celebrity acid head Timothy Pillbottle after radicals busted him out of San Quentin. We fled to a compound in Bali where the perfume of hashish filled the air and topless women, their sleek bodies brown from the sun, played beach volleyball all afternoon. A stalactite of snot oozed from my nostril, but I couldn't find a tissue. On Sundays, we drove the Jaguar to the waterfront to buy barramundi and prawns as big as your fist for our servants to cook. My only escape was an old Firesign theater record I played on the gramophone. I spent hours listening to Nick Danger and dreamed of becoming a private eye on the mean streets of Somerville, Massachusetts, to escape my father's nitrous influence. When Indonesia extradited him, I grabbed my opportunity. Pure capsaicin, 16 million Scoville units. El Guaco pointed at the next bottle. I forced myself to swallow the tortilla chip from hell. Like Dante, it descended to the ninth circle of my intestines. I held my stomach, but my guts could not escape eternal damnation. Why did you come here? I was never much of a father, always too busy hiding behind copying machines with a telephoto lens or searching public records until dawn to pay attention to the daughter I didn't know I had. When rogue divorce lawyers kidnapped my little girl and demanded I give you that summons, I had to act. As a dog father to a pit bull named Roxy, you must understand. I am not that dog's father! El Guaco slammed his fist onto the table. Then a cruel grin replaced his rage. Rectum inferno, made with resin ferritoxin at 16 billion Scoville units. A man in goggles, mask, and nitrile gloves poured a smoking liquid into a bowl and backed away. I picked it up, smiled at El Guaco, and put its contents in my mouth. Then I spit the inflammatory fluid into his eyes. He screamed and covered his face with his hands. This gave me the chance to snatch his pistol. Anybody moves and he dies. I held the Glock to El Guaco's head and dragged him out of the chair. Get the van, I told the fat man. Drop it. I heard Starry yell. There were gunshots and a Wilhelm scream, but I couldn't see a thing. I kept hold of El Guaco while the others guided me out of the building to the van. Once inside, someone took custody of the smuggler. I collapsed in back of for a miserable drive. With eyes clamped shut, I heard the ratchet of a handbrake as we swerved around a corner and felt the pulp of limes and papayas as we drove through fruit stands. A dozen tractors with flashing red lights met us on the American side of the border. The Department of Agriculture took El Guaco away. I woke with a yogurt IV in my arm and an arrangement of lollipops shaped like brass knuckles by my hospital bed. My digestive tract felt like molten steel brush coated with hydrofluoric acid had gone through it 100 times. So you're awake? My roommate set down his crossword puzzle and turned the TV to Fox News. You missed the president's speech. My cell phone buzzed, glad for any distraction. I answered. Morris, it's Nebula. That's his daughter. Sweetheart, you're safe. Thanks for getting me away from those awful divorce lawyers. She paused. There's no easy way to say this. I got the DNA test back. You're not my daddy after all. And so there you go.
Bravo! Bravo! Woo! Woo! History! Woo!
Worst episode of Maury Povich ever. Let's nice job, John. And he'll of course send a link, put a link in the chat where you can see the whole story if you missed anything from the last couple of weeks. Up next, I'd like to give a little preview of next week's feature. Poet and fiction writer, Mr. Peter F. Crowley, or just Peter Crowley if you go by his ID and Zoom. I'm so glad he agreed to feature next week and close out what's been an amazing month of features for Stone Soup this year. I think that means you're on. There you go. I don't think we can hear you. Oh, looks like, okay, unmute, go to mute. How's it going, Peter? Looks like we can't hear you, so I'll see what you can do. Maybe you can sign in and sign out and sign back in. I don't know.
You
It's
may
this
well
is
have a local microphone option. Your microphone locally might be turned off.
I'll let you figure that out, and we'll go to Mary Jennings.
Thank you. This piece is inspired by a classic movie. If you've seen, hope you've seen it, A Face in the Crowd, which was Andy Griffith's movie debut, um, and uh, and it's entitled A Face in the Crowd, and it's based on the story and screenplay by Bud Schulberg. Mean country boy with no shame, and a trail of adoring discards littered along the way, is locked in a cage for having no home, had no meal for days. Oh, lend an ear to hear his song of hard times and romance of the road. His charm and hood mentality make him the rage. He now has a home in the city and his own television show. Hard times are no more. He's still the same mean country boy, but he's a household name who crams his PR manufactured and sponsor endorsed ideology down your throats until he's overheard saying what a load of bull it is and how lame the people are for adhering to it. A herd of charging bulls could not clear out the room faster than his mouth. Oh, lend an ear to hear. Crickets. Having tasted the sweet life, sweet as the placebo pills for virility that he hawked, the road is no longer romantic. Lonesome survives. Lonesome remains. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And Peter, are we able to hear you now? Ah, damn it. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. We'll maybe you can come in and come out and come back in because I'm really not sure what the. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so let's go to. We're gonna go to James, then we're gonna go to Laurel. So let's welcome up James Van Loy. Check out his column tomorrow. It's all one thing at oddballmagazine.com.
Thanks, Chad. So I've got a piece here that goes with this whole thing that's broken about the whole Epstein case and everything that from the first Trump term, because this thing has been around for a long time. And it's called Do Your Research, which is Alex Jones's catchphrase used by the QAnon conspiracy theorists to divert questions. Do your research. As we say at the Saturday Weekly Demo, the war on terror is a lie brought to you by the FBI. That is the multiple agents who downplayed the sexual abuse of Olympic athletes by a doctor who was supposed to safeguard their health as the sporting organizations that they were supposed to be their protectors, and maybe Michigan State University dangled bribes of jobs and money for the agents soon to retire. But then behind all of that, that no one even seems to think to investigate is Ghislaine Maxwell on the run for a year and in jail for over a year with trials still hanging fire. She's the only one of many other enablers who helped her buddy boy, Jeffrey Epstein, traffic hundreds of teenage girls for decades. And he, when caught, got a special deal from a U.S. attorney prosecutor who told the Trump administration, who vetted him for Secretary of Labor, that he went easy on predatory pedophile Epstein because he was informed the case had security state implications, of course, since there is a long history of spies and undercover agents blackmailing power brokers with sexual acts crimes, just as happened with J. Edgar Hoover, FBI director for the first almost half a century of existence, when, as founding director, Hoover was being blackmailed by the mob, who held film of him and his longtime man friend comforting and cross-dressing actually with young boys. Yes. And we all knew it back when, but could not prove it. And J. Edgar died still in office with files on everyone, the Kennedys, MLK, etc. But his name is still on the FBI headquarters, even as the building is falling down, literally. And Trump, who sought to reward the former prosecutor who helped Epstein stay in action against young girls all over the world by making him the Secretary of Labor, that is, the supposed department head of all the workers. Yes, that Trump we all had to listen to as they told us he's doing a great job. And an actual cult develops that this most corrupt leader is the one, and is going to somehow stop the abuse when he's done it all gangsta, banksta, money laundering, sexual abusing, tax cheating, that actually really is all one thing, cult of death, a myth of redemptive violence creeps, which really was the name of Nixon's crew of corrupt election stealers, including folk like Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, who Trump pardoned, who were high school young repugs for Nixon way back in 1972, committing political dirty tricks to elect the crook, who had connections to organized crime going back to 1946 when he red baited his woman opponent to start the Red Scare slash McCarthyism slash the Lavender Scare too. And here's a quick song for you. Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream that's the thing to do. Watch the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream and they might come true. Things are never as bad as they seem if you just dream, 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 dream. And that's Johnny Mercer's song, of course. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you, James. And closing out the open mic, we'll bring back, courtesy of the magic of telephone Zoom, Laurel Lambert. Laurel, if you're ready, you're up. Whoops, so wait 1 second. Let me just, okay, now you're unmuted. Sorry about that, Laurel. You're up.
Hi, my name is Laurel Lambert. I'm an artist and a poet. I don't know how many of you know that Tom Tipton, the owner and director of Edinburgh Blue Art Gallery and many different locations, has died. He has passed on. This is a very short to medium to large poem to honor him. He was a very, very, very kind, beautiful, talented, handsome man with one very, very good sense of humor. So this poem goes out to all his very, very good friends and all his partners throughout his life. And it goes out to anybody who loved him. Hello, Tom. This is everybody. It goes out to you and everybody. You were there whenever I needed you. You were one of my mentors. You were very kind to me. Yes, you were not always happy with me. Too many questions, you used to say. You helped, supported, and guided so many artists, both writers and visual artists. You were so very, very attached to the animals that you had, dogs and cats. People who worked for you or volunteered for you. You were there. You were always there when you could be. You were handsome. Yes, and a lot of women loved you in many ways. The two things that I'm going to remember you most by, just like everybody else remembers you by, is you championing the person or the people who are not quite there. Most particularly when you let me hang one of my paintings, not mounted or framed, and on the Prospect Street location. It is kind of strange, but when you moved to Massachusetts Avenue, where the store used to be, you gave me a lot of stuff from your room in the basement where you lived. You gave me a huge, huge jar of pennies, probably about 20 or 20, maybe less pennies. You gave me a couple of knickknacks, a little piece of jewelry. I remember when I volunteered there, sometimes when nobody was around, I would take little pieces here and there and not ask or tell. And once when I found $20 in the jeans of a woman in the bathroom, I took it without telling anybody. Your heart was always there. Your soul was always there. May you always rest in peace and be reincarnated if there is such a thing. Bless you, bless everybody who loves you. Rest in peace. We will always remember you and we will always love you. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Laurel. And before we close off the open mic, I believe Peter Crawley is back on. Let's see if his mic works. That would be good to know for next week.
Yeah, does it work
Okay,
now?
great.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
sorry
next
about
week's
that.
feature, let's sneak preview, Mr. Crowley.
Thanks. Sorry about that. This was written after someone I know passed away from cancer after struggling with it for a while. It's called There Has to Be a Better Way to Die. Silver cells abound in glistening field. The body turns, a whooping crane listens. Fish beneath the shadowed surface dart in seizure spasms. The crane's beak jabs into the water, lacerating gills. Hairless, mouth ajar, dark circles underneath the eyes, stomach in rebellion, T cells on strike. There has to be a better way to die. Listless pallor, eyes fluttering, hallucinating, blind, cancer in recession. It doesn't matter anymore. There has to be a better way to die. Feeding tubes, morphine, high fever, delirium, tired like Vishnu, imbibing all the world's suffering. There has to be a better way to die.
And there's more where that came from next week. Thank you so much, Peter Crowley, and stay tuned for more Stone Soup news. And submit to Oddball Magazine, which has been a home for Peter and several other people on this call right now. And with that, I'd love to again, for anyone who hasn't joined yet, join the Stone Soup Facebook group if you can. You can join my Chad Parento's Lost Causes Substack if you're okay with being on Substack. Many people aren't. I try to use the tools against against those who abuse them. And you can do, or you can email me at Yahoo at chadpoetforhire at yahoo.com, or check out oddballmagazine.com, and there's a WordPress list as well. And there should be new submission opportunities coming up soon, especially with the holidays of in the fall and winter. We'll be doing the Halloween Horathon call for submissions soon enough, where Robert Fleming is supplying the artwork. And that's all I got for pseudo announcements before the feature. Thank you all for your patience. Thanks to Jack for listening to everyone. I hope you all lend him your ears as I grab the poet's boilerplate. For those of you who haven't been here in a bit, we do meet every Wednesday night for the foreseeable future on Zoom. We are looking to have something live for September as we celebrate, or I celebrate, or mark at any rate. It might not be a celebration to some, mark my 20th anniversary of hosting this shindig since September 2005. Good God. But for now, we are gathering online, and tonight's feature is Jack Giaour, who is describes himself as a queer, kinky Pisces who lives in an attic in Winthrop, Massachusetts. He won the 2023-2024 Boom Chapbook Contest from Battelle Press with his manuscript Hunting the Bugs, and his work has appeared or is forthcoming in Nix's Mate Review, the Sonora Review, and 14 Hills, among others. And hopefully we're going to get more than a helping of the bugs from his latest manuscript as well as other work. You heard him last week. You know why you had to come back. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Friends of all ages, 30, 40 times for Jack Giaour.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think before I start, I have a lot of thanks to give both to Chad for inviting me to feature. The last time, I guess I was on, I was on I was online at Stone Soup last week for MP's feature, but before that, the last time I had been at a Stone Soup reading was when you guys were in person at the Out of the Blue Art Gallery in Cambridge, I think. And that was like, that might have been 10 years ago at least. So it's very, very nice is not the right word. It's an honor to be back in the Stone Soup group. It's definitely an honor to be featured as part of Stone Soup, because this mic, among others, was definitely part of the reason I started writing poetry to begin with. And I have to thank MP and Clay for dragging me out of the blue when it was in person to hear you all read. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone in the audience, because not only could you be doing anything else with your Wednesday night, but those in New England have a glut of other open mics they could have been at tonight, but instead you have all chosen to be here to listen to each other and to listen to me. So thank you so much. Truly, yeah, it's an honor to read for you all and among you all. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to read some previously published stuff, some new stuff, and then I'll end with some stuff from the book. And do I need to say anything about it? I don't think so. I'm just going to dive in. Okay, so the first one is called In Peabody There Is a Lot, but this poem has what MP Carver likes to call a bleeding title. So the title is also the first line of the poem. So I'll say it and then say it again. In Peabody There Is a Lot. In Peabody, there is a lot of history nobody knows about if you're not from Massachusetts. You don't even know where Peabody is. I lived in Peabody. My roots are not in Peabody, though. My family roots, I mean. I learned how to swim there, and I learned how to ice skate there in the brown Bruins hat that was too big for me because it was really my dad's. But I bet you didn't know any of that. You can't even find Peabody on the map. If you look, you'll just see a black dot. But it's a lot more than that. I learned about bullies there. I was beaten up for the first time there. I learned how to lie to my parents there. But I bet you didn't know that either. And that's that one. So I've been writing, if anybody reads tarot in here, I've been writing a series of poems, I don't know, in response to different tarot cards. So the next one I'm going to read is part of that series, and the title is The Emperor. So for those that aren't familiar with the tarot, the Emperor represents authority, confidence, perhaps tradition, but can also mean insecurity, self-doubt, rebellion, etc. So, and if anybody's familiar with the opera Carmen, you might hear some familiar lines. So this is called The Emperor. Call it insomnia, call it inheritance or inevitable. Either way, you'll continue to say antisocial without knowing what that word means. I don't steal omens, I inhale them. And now the cigarettes I smoked in high school don't seem quite so toxic after all. I tied disorder to my desk chair and gagged him, held my knife to his throat, took all of his books and the bottle of Garnacha from the top of his fridge. Is that antisocial? Maybe. But cruelty is a rebellious bird, a flower thrown, a doomed bull bleeding into the dust of June. Here's a day that we will always remember. Here's me, Don Jose under arrest, maybe Escamillo in distress. Either way, just another sweating torero with nothing in the cards but death and air. But somehow I keep breathing, the crowd keeps cheering, and I keep waking in the middle of the night. Maybe I'm the promised land. Maybe the demons were here the whole time, dancing up from the gardens inside of me. And that's that one. Chad, is there any way that I can share my screen for the next one? Because there's a
Everyone should be able to share last I checked, so you're good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I think you should all be able to see my screen now. I guess if you can't, like, get on the mic and yell at me. But this poem, as you can see, is called Survey. This was actually, not to brag, but this is published in Mantis Literary Journal, which is put out by Stanford University. And I would strongly recommend both submitting to them and checking out their issues, not just because I'm in it, but because they do some great stuff. So this poem was actually submitted to them and published in response to a prompt that was called the mind embodied, the embodiment of the mind, something like this. So this is called Survey. I think you'll be able to figure out what I mean by that as I continue on. But the form is kind of mocking one of those, I don't know if you've all taken these, but I have taken a lot of like psych surveys online via, psychology.com or yeah. Anyway, next to the following statements, please indicate by checking the box provided whether you A, strongly agree, B, somewhat agree, C, somewhat disagree, or D, strongly disagree. I feel half crazy with sustained psychic anguish. So, of course, I check strongly agree. Maybe you in the audience would check something different, but I am colder than a witch's tit. Strongly agree. Most people would describe me as morbid and not in a good way. Strongly agree. All of my daydreams feature explicit sexual acts. Strongly agree. And I guess sorry to everyone that is watching this live on Facebook. Most people would describe me as interesting and not in a good way. Strongly agree. I am gray-tempered and pathetically maladjusted. Strongly agree. All of my dreams feature explicit sexual acts. Strongly agree. Most people would describe me as difficult to get along with. Strongly agree. Most people would describe me as way too nice. Strongly agree. I am noticeably and disturbingly self-absorbed. Strongly agree. Most people would describe me as spiritually gnawed by a need to exact bloody vengeance on those who have wronged me, and not in a good way. Strongly agree. I have recently started biting my fingernails. Somewhat agree. Thank you. Please wait a moment while we process your results. So I'll stop sharing. I don't know. I guess I could continue to share if you want to see the form of my other poems, but they're not as interesting as that one. But I guess the goal there is to highlight like how like kind of humiliating and weird it is to take a self-identifying psych exam, but how also like very vitally important it is to self-identify in a psych space, because a lot of our DSM-5 criteria is based on observable behavior rather than lived experience. And that has some benefits, but that also has some problems too, right? So long story short, the world of psychology is very, very weird, and I think still has a lot of room to grow and develop. Said as someone who's not a psychologist. But moving on, the next one is called. So the next one is another one in the tarot series. So this one is called the High Priest. That's not the usual name of this card. The usual name of this card is called the Hierophant, which is kind of an old-fashioned word, and I think doesn't have the same mirror with the High Priestess. So I changed it. So take that, Aleister Crowley. So this one is called the High Priest. This one's a little abstract. I don't know. Sorry if you don't like abstract. So this is the High Priest. From a narrow catharsis of fish flashes a scarlet crucifix. The artificial suicide of Christ every year comes wretched from the red herring tomb, where if a call enters, or we in a red haze enrage the bull, depends on our nightmares. What do you really know about the bay or its trials? The silted alphas, the shadow man facing his kerosene lamp, and others chanting field spells. Lavender-rich clouds in burning ease on red and black travel down rows of deep subconscious, past clapboard, endless and neat, cut out, bleached, ridged execution fantasies. In the end, it's the windshield that saves me. Pink, glancing, gaslights, brushing the God syndrome with blue honey, traveling down hollows, long kisses, and the texts to 7 different guys, and a goodbye to a different me. The bedtime story grows richer. Erosive movement, shifting, salty, sunken, comes and closes its cold door of form and dusk and cruelty in the creation of rivers, in gray invincibility, in pressure on the earth, and lupines in flux. The sweet angels fall to their doom from remembered cliffs. On the altar, bumblebees creep inside the promises of evening heaven. A pale angel wanders the tormented marshes. An iron climax grips him, and a queen smiles at, but doesn't love him. And that's that one. Okay, what time is it? So I think I'm going to read 2 more like newish ones, and then I'll end with a couple from the book. So this one, again, was previously published in the Rio Grande Review, which I think is the only university-sponsored fully bilingual literary journal in the US. So please check them out. They're awesome. And again, their journal is fully bilingual. So they publish poetry and prose in both English and Spanish. So well, maybe not obviously, but my work is in English. So I'm going to read you the poem that they published from me. This is called Thraldom in the Mojave Desert. Heap of dust and weed, and the bruisy horizon smudge of mountains. Memory and starlight are all that the dull roots of cacti need to survive, winter kept in the shallow frost after dusk. Earth in this corner is alien, a little purple, a little blue, and summer surprised us with a little green. I drove into this desert twice. The second time with a 6-pack under a colonnade of Joshua trees, I drank and went to that very private limbo, drinking from starlight with the cacti. The word Mojave comes from the Mojave tribal language word Hamahave, which means beside the water. And when I arrived in this desert, I was happy and oppressively wild, with poetry in the glove compartment, with a 6-pack of cheap beer. I read under the night desert's waxing crescent. What are we humans when we are pulled out of the car by our own wilderness? You cannot imagine the night sky. Okay. And that's true, by the way, I guess, unless you've actually been out in the Mojave Desert. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that many stars outside of the planetarium at the Science Museum. So it was both like amazing and also kind of depressing and also kind of weird to realize that every single night could be this absolute like tapestry of light. If it weren't for the lights that we produce here on Earth. And so on the one hand, I think it's kind of beautiful that we almost produce this starlight on the Earth. But on the other hand, it's kind of alarming and sad that we produce so much light here on Earth that we can't see the natural light from the universe that we belong to coming back to us. So kind of like this moment of isolation and connection all at once. So now I'm going to read from my book, which is beautiful. This is produced by Bateau Press, who is based in Bar Harbor, Maine. For the New England people, they're local. They only do 1 chapbook a year. And the reason they only do one a year is because they hand make them. So if you can see with my little zoom camera, this is hand stitched. They hired a letterpress artist to do the front, so they really are invested in the art of the book. And that's
Please give us a link to that if we can purchase it.
Oh yes, well, so all right, I'm going to put two.
You can do it after the fact.
Okay,
it looks amazing.
So I'll put a link to my website, which links you back to Batro Press's website, and I'll link you to Batro Press itself, because not only should you check out my book, but all of their books are gorgeous. Like they really, really invest the time, energy, and money that it takes into hand making a beautiful book. So there's a lot going on in the world, some of which this book addresses, some of which I kind of wish this book didn't address, because now it's a couple of years old and it like continues to be relevant. And I want that to mean that I'm this like great prophetic poet, but in reality I'm like, fuck, like this still applies to life, to the world. So I'm going to read two poems from this book, and that'll end my feature for tonight. So one is going to be kind of politically topical, and the other will be personal. So we had already kind of talked about Gaza in a very satirical way, which I appreciated very much. But yeah, things are not good in Palestine. So for the record, while we are live streaming and recording, free Palestine. The poem that I'm going to read is called The Water. This poem was originally written, and as it appears in the book, it is written for the Syrian civil war, which I guess officially has ended. But there's still a lot of violence and a lot of political tension in Syria. But with the exception, I think I have to change two words, and this poem could apply to what's going on in Gaza as well. So thinking about that, this poem is called The Water. And I have nothing else to say. The Water. The doctor checks Mohammed's temperature, changes his bandages, takes his blood. For fuck's sake, there's 100 bloody Mohammeds on this list, he swears in English, shoves the clipboard into the hands of the attending Red Cross nurse. Your vitals are right on the edge of normal, the doctor says. Mohammed has questions for the doctor, such as, how long can I survive on such an edge as this? But he doesn't quite know the right way to phrase it in English. He wants to say, how long do I have out here on the edge of such an abyss as this? He listens to the doctor describe his symptoms to the nurse. He knows his chart is incomplete. He knows as he watches her run through the checklist of sarin gas poisoning symptoms. So I guess if we're in Palestine, tear gas, white phosphorus, etc. That his questions, that his eye pain and watery eyes belong on a different kind of chart. That these words answer a different kind of question. A question that no one is asking. So unfortunately, I don't know, I guess that poem doesn't really apply to what's going on in Palestine, because there is no aid allowed in Palestine right now. And what aid is able to get in there is constantly under fire. So, like how to engage with that without being sarcastic. Sarcasm is like my defense mechanism. And so I guess you'll also note that I haven't, even though I do identify as transgender, I haven't really read any like trans rights poems in this reading, and I'm kind of struggling to write them right now because I've been a little down about the state of trans rights in general, because they're not great, both here and abroad, and especially some European countries, the UK, that have traditionally been really strong allies for queer people are failing in that regard. But so the last poem that I'm going to read is personal, and like kind of touches on the trans issue in a really, really like distant way. So this is called For Gabriel on Labor Day. It's obviously not Labor Day, but Gabriel knows who he is. I stood at the window listening to a mosquito whine around the useless blades of the ceiling fan. It was unusually hot for September, and the mosquitoes were vicious because of it, and sleep was impossible because of it. I stood there in my underwear in the blazing afternoon, wishing I knew how to fix the ceiling fan. And his voice was murmured branches in the other room, talking to the electrician, and his condescension was leafy overshadows when I suggested we just go to Home Depot and buy a standing fan instead. Why was it so important to fix the ceiling fan anyway? But it was important, and I had proven my lack of initiative by asking. Having someone come to fix the ceiling fan wasn't such a big deal, and it was totally stupid to go out and buy a whole new fan when there was a perfectly good fan built into the friggin' ceiling. This was exactly why I didn't have any money. And if I was just going to stand there, why didn't I put some goddamn pants on? He tells me I'm cold when I don't respond to his texts. And it's true that I do feel the creep of his digital ink like a chill every time he punctures my screen. It's true that I hear the monstrous whine behind his voice when I'm awake late into the night, itching at the mind bruises welting up from the day before. He's always waiting for a response, but there are no hymns inside of me to sing for him. No keys tuned to the words I'm blazing through like so many piano strings. I never did put my goddamn pants on, just followed the dance of that lost mosquito as it wove between the stagnant blades. I never did answer his texts. It was unusually hot for September, and I was vicious because of it. The monstrous ice of my attention melted in the perfect fire of rage. I think that's all for tonight. Thank you again so much for coming out, for hearing me read, for your wonderful work tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. And please send the link because I do want to grab that chapbook. It looks gorgeous. I miss handcrafted works. There's so few people who can do it. Consider Foothills Publishing, which actually still in upstate New York, in a town in a house built by Quakers. Michael Sarnecki actually assembles, handcrafts all the books that he publishes from poets. Just as one example, and you can get small press publishers all over northern New England too. It's a breeding ground, northern New England, for handcrafting books. There's nothing else going on up there. What else are they going to do? Let's sew the books together. That's what I would do. I wouldn't have a job if I was up there. Let us let's hope that you and everyone else that we heard tonight might be able to make it down if Stone Soup does assemble. If we do, it'll probably be in Cambridge, and hopefully I'll be having some announcements of that after the Boston Poetry Marathon, which I hope some of you were able to make. I know at least a couple of you were asked. And if not, well, let's see what happens. But again, 16th to the 17th. And of course, next week on the 30th, we have Peter F. Crowley closing us out for the long month of July. And hopefully for the end of summer and September, we'll not only have quality features, but we'll be chock full of them like we were this month. And thanks so much to Jack for your work, and thanks to everyone for being here tonight. And of course, a shout out, as Laura Lambert was saying, to Tom Tipton, who was the co-founder of the Out of the Blue Gallery, who passed away over the weekend. And the fate of the Out of the Blue at the Arts in the Armory, which is where its current location's been for some time now, is uncertain. I haven't heard anything in terms of memorial, but I'll be contacting Deb Priestley, who was his ex and a longtime partner of the gallery and a contributor of art as well. And hopefully we'll get some word as to what the memorial will be. And I'll let people know on the Stone Soup Facebook group. For now, we do sad wave, but knowing that we sad wave, but happy in that we were able to share with all our work with all of you tonight with each other. And I hope you guys come back next week for Mr. Crowley. We will have an all open mic on August 6th and much more to come because we're still going to be producing work even as the rest of everything else and this and that and that the other is turning to crap. But we can stay ourselves and stay the same. Hope you all do. Stay strong, take care of yourselves, and take care of somebody else. That's your action items moving forward. Take care. Have a good night. It could be like this every week. All we need is you. And to conclude, the show's over. See you next time.